When we think about the biggest threats in cybersecurity, our minds usually jump to some sophisticated hacker, right? But what if I told you that for a global company, the most dangerous threat might not be a hacker at all, but a simple misunderstanding? Today, we're going to dive into a huge, often overlooked security risk. What happens when your training doesn't speak everyone's language?
So, let's just start with a really important question for anyone working in a global organization. Is your security training actually protecting you, or could it be creating dangerous blind spots? I mean, think about it. If your team doesn't truly get the rules, there's no way they can follow them.
And a huge piece of this puzzle is engagement, or, well, the lack of it. A recent study found that a staggering 72% of employees do not find their security training engaging. 72%. That is a massive disconnect. It tells us that most people are just tuning out, and if they're tuning out, the most critical lessons are totally getting lost, leaving your company wide open.
And that brings us right to the heart of the problem, what I call the global language gap. When you have a business that spans multiple countries and cultures, a one-size-fits-all training program just doesn't cut it. It's not just bad communication, it's a serious hidden security vulnerability. Let's break down exactly how this puts you at risk.
First off, it just flat out increases your vulnerabilities. Imagine getting instructions on how to spot a phishing email, but they're in your second or third language. You might miss the subtle cues, right? Well, cybercriminals are experts at exploiting exactly these kinds of gaps. They know that an employee who doesn't fully grasp the warning is a much easier target.
Second, your engagement levels just plummet. When training is full of, say, American idioms or examples that don't make sense in another culture, it feels irrelevant. And what do people do when something feels irrelevant? They mentally check out. This creates a really dangerous false sense of security for management, who think, hey, everyone was trained, when the reality is a lot of people didn't really absorb a thing.
And finally, this creates some pretty serious compliance gaps. You've got complex regional data laws, like GDPR in Europe. An employee might accidentally violate one of these, not because they're trying to cause trouble, but because they just didn't understand the nitty-gritty details of the policy. See, real compliance isn't just about writing down rules. It's about making sure every single person on your team actually understands them.
Okay, so that's the problem. How do we fix it? Well, the solution goes way beyond just translating your slides. It requires what we call true localization. This is all about adapting your training to speak not just the language, but the culture of your teams, wherever they are in the world.
So let's be super clear on what localization means. It's not just taking English words and swapping them for Spanish or Japanese. No, it's about adapting the entire context. It means using local examples, real-world scenarios, and cultural norms that actually make sense to that specific audience. That's what makes the information stick.
And this really shows you the core difference. Translation, it just changes the words. It gets the basic meaning across, but it almost always misses the cultural nuance. Localization, on the other hand, adapts the context itself. It's the difference between being understood and being truly heard. It's how you make sure the message actually resonates.
So what's the payoff here? Is all this effort worth it? Absolutely. Investing in localization isn't just a nice to have. It delivers real, tangible security benefits by turning your entire workforce into a much, much stronger human firewall.
And we've got the data to back this up. It's pretty compelling. When people learn complex stuff in their own primary language, their comprehension just skyrockets. One analysis found that properly localized e-learning can boost knowledge retention by 40%. That means more of your employees will actually remember what to do when a real threat hits.
And better retention? Well, that leads to fewer mistakes. A safety study, for instance, showed that multilingual training led to a 25% drop in workplace incidents. Now, if you translate that to the cybersecurity world, that means fewer breaches caused by simple human error. That is a massive reduction in your overall risk.
So to sum it all up, the benefits are huge. You get way more clarity and comprehension. That leads to higher employee engagement and, crucially, less human error. From there, you get stronger compliance, you build a security-first culture where everyone feels included, and at the end of the day, you get a much better return on your training investment. It's a win-win all around.
Okay, I'm hoping you're on board, but you're probably thinking, how do we actually do this? So let's walk through a clear, actionable playbook for creating security training that is truly culturally aware.
The whole process really breaks down into 5 key steps. You start by assessing what you need, figure out the languages and cultures you're working with. Then you adapt your content, going beyond just words to localize your examples. Third, you've got to use the right tech. an LMS that can actually handle multilingual delivery. Fourth, you tailor the training to local threats and laws. And finally, you pilot it. You get feedback, and you keep making it better. It's a continuous loop of improvement.
And this brings us to the final takeaway. We live in a world where cyber threats have no borders, so our defenses can't have them either. The real goal here is to unify your entire global team into one single cohesive defense.
You've heard this a million times, but it's so true. A chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And in a global company, that weakest link is very, very often a simple language barrier. A single misunderstanding in one office can literally compromise the whole organization.
So, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with one final question to really think about. Is your human firewall strong in every single language your company speaks? Because in today's world, that's the only way you're going to be truly secure.